Hello, good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are in the world. It's that time of the week again, Matthew and Greg. Hi, guys. Hi,
Good
Matt.
morning.
Good morning indeed. It's still only 7:30 in the morning here for me, but that's okay. I live in Australia. We get up early for the rest of the world. Everything happens here first.
It really does, including the waking up.
Yeah. So again, this is a episode of Wirecast in the Wild. The purpose is for us to sit and chat about some things that are happening in the community forums, to have some discussion about some things that are important, we believe, and in some cases to give our thoughts and solve some problems to some of the challenges that people may be looking at in the forum. So that's the purpose. I forgot to get my screen capture set up ready before the show today, so I'm just doing that at the moment. But in the meantime, I'm going to throw to you, Matthew.
Sure. So we've obviously seen a lot of traction happening in the forums over the last about week. Conversations being had about NDI sources, cameras, and then obviously I posted that comment about the red question mark removal, which is up for voting on if you do that type of thing in the feature requests. Other than that, we're seeing a lot of things coming down the line for choppy video and importing stuff from RTSP. Now, obviously, the RTSP thing, I think we can only technically go out at the moment from Wirecast, not really in yet. It's always been a feature request for some years, at least since the last forum, from my understanding, to do an RTSP feed directly into Wirecast. But we'll be taking a look at some of the stuff that obviously people have been posting, including some of the stuff I'm seeing about Facebook live streaming and some of the concerns people are having there.
Okay. And I've got my screen capture up. So let's go and pick the first one and most current one. We've got people talking about video choppy in the forums. Let's have a quick look at that. Going up to the very top. So PTZ optics cameras generally working fine. All of a sudden, sometimes video jumps between actual videos. So I'm assuming, and this is an assumption, that it's an NDI connection. No. When I click reconnect, I'm using RTSP address. Have you been following this one at all?
Not really too closely. It's been definitely in my I'm paying attention to it, but I haven't even posted anything to this. I haven't done any type of stats to this. But anytime somebody's coming in, I'm finding with a web or an IP camera, you're going to have things like buffer delays. You're going to have things like network traffic issues, and a lot of the people that are using Wirecast and they're asking these types of questions, I find aren't on the
not
most
necessarily
robust
network gurus and
Correct. Yeah. So especially if you're using an IP-based camera, like a small PTZ security camera or something along those lines, it's just you're be bound to have these types of things, which is why a lot of us are trying to move and migrate over to NDI for a network-based infrastructure.
Absolutely. The PTZ optics cameras with an NDI-based camera, no matter what it is that you're doing with NDI, you need to have a good network.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, just to that point, when I first started playing around with Wirecast and Titler Live, I had Titler Live sitting on a MacBook with a really, really good network connection. But when it's sending, it was still struggling. And
NDI, when it first came out, it was a massive beast on networks. I was trying it when it first came out as well, and I found it was struggling on wired connections.
Yeah.
Basically needed a 10 or 100 gigabit connection to do it. Since then, obviously, NX has come out. But you and I have, at least in the last week, also done some testing for NDI on mobile devices. You on your iOS, myself on the Android. And we're finding even on that, it's over a Wi-Fi network, but 720p doesn't even work on a 5 gigahertz network all the time. So
yeah. Okay, next one I've got here, Facebook Live. People are having some streaming issues with that. Let's bring that up. Oops, I clicked on it, but it didn't come. Let me click again. There we go. We've been having feedback on our broadcast over the last 3 weeks, kicking viewers off while they're watching. And you commented, Facebook live streaming platform still in its early days, etc., etc. CPU output quite high. What's this one about?
So it seems that they're getting a lot of people that have been dropping off their video. Now, you and I, actually, it wasn't you and I that had this conversation. I've been speaking with a couple of people in regards to optimum bandwidth and bit rate to use on different platforms, and obviously the viewers. Now, for me, Facebook is still very much in its infancy when it comes to being a live streaming platform. The interface alone has been chugging along, even on powerful computers. My MacBook Pro, at one point, I was watching a stream and you could just hear the fan spin up. It was taking a lot of the CPU. It was a concern. Uh, if what I'm reading here is the case, then while it has increased in quality that I've seen for my own personal uses, it seems that machines like the MacBook Air are still struggling to maintain that connection and that CPU rendering. So if Facebook is getting a very high bit rate perhaps coming in, my guess is that they're streaming to Facebook. It's nice and solid. There's no errors on the server side. But what's happening is the clients are just being disconnected because their machine isn't capable of maintaining that connection.
Yeah.
Um,
The one comment I'd
happened.
make, yeah, the one comment I'd make is just looking at here, there was a question, our percentage hung between 58 to 60% locally. The indicator didn't ever change to red or yellow or have a line through it, etc. The one thing that I think is a really useful tool in Wirecast is having a look at the output statistics. So right now as we speak, if I bring that over, let's see what we got. So we can have a look at my bit rate currently going out. And at the very beginning, we had a bit of a high spike and then we've normalized at about 1.25 megabits per second. That's a good one to have a look at. The queue size, the RTMP queue size should be as low as possible. Certainly 4 seconds right at the beginning was a concern. Viewers, don't worry about it. It doesn't work reliably, particularly with YouTube. It may work with Facebook. But
I have
also,
heard that that is fixed. That is supposed to be corrected. And from what I have seen with at least Twitch and YouTube, that has been on my end. There might be a small delay on it, but sure enough, that does work. Now, what is it reading for you right now? I can't really tell. We currently have 3 people watching.
Yeah, I'm going to suggest that it might work a little bit, but in terms of reliability, I wouldn't bet my life on it. Halfway through a stream, it seems to drop out, and there's a keep alive problem where it just needs to refresh the session, and Wirecast is not doing that from what I've seen.
Gotcha.
But again, having a look at the graph here, yes, my viewers is showing up in the Wirecast window, but the graph, I don't see anything. Oh, is it maybe the color on that monitor? No, there's nothing there. So it's
okay then.
So it's working as expected and as designed. No, it's a challenge. We'll leave it at that. So back to my point though, if you're trying to eliminate some stuff, have a look at your metrics. Are you sending a bit rate that makes sense? Are you, do you have a large RTMP queue size? Is your CPU spiking at the times that you may have an RTMP queue size, or you're dropping frames and all of that kind of stuff? Speaking of which, dropped frames today for me. What's your bet as to how many we've dropped so far?
We've technically had this going and recording since about just after 5. So my guess is around 8,640.
Not quite, 3,028. And I've done some work to try and eliminate some stuff. So my preferences are reset. I've got the right canvas refresh rates, the right outputs and everything. If I have a look at the frame rate here, this is where it gets interesting. You're going to laugh at this. Let me get myself off the screen.
Let's take a look at this now.
That is my frame rate.
Now,
And
that is interesting.
I'm currently running at 17% system CPU. App CPU is 8%. So very low. And for whatever reason, we're dropping frames left, right, and center.
I'd be curious to know what that's pulling from, because looking at the live stream just myself, I'm not seeing the frames being that low. Now you're probably not seeing a lot of, well, maybe. In fact, if I go over to that screen right now and I check out the advanced stats on YouTube, stats for nerds, yeah, I'm still seeing it be 1080p 30, zero dropped of, and it continues to pump up. So
Yeah.
I don't know where they're pulling that number from, and I'd be curious to get to the bottom of.
Yeah. So it's an interesting one to look at, but it's gone back to normal now. As we speak, it's flatlining again, and the dropped frames is no longer incrementing. So we'll have a look at that later.
It's really bizarre. And it's not that it's affecting the stream, which is the bizarre thing. Like the video feeds and being recorded seem to be fine. There's no drops that we can tell. However, obviously seeing that number on screen makes the operator be a bit worried that something is going wrong.
Yeah. So just out of interest, to document it as well, I turned off the rendezvous dashboard because I've previously seen challenges with that. Now I've turned off my
web view inside.
Yeah, I've turned off my preview monitor right now in Wirecast, so I've only got the live monitor up on my screen at the moment.
And I've done that similar things in my videos as well, where I'm showing only the live view, only a single camera feed, and it's the same thing happening.
Yeah. Anyway, our next one is one that we only very, very briefly need to touch on, the QR codes.
Yes, indeed. Now, I think we're bringing this up primarily because there has been some interesting traffic on that page. Obviously, you had posted this. Jens had posted this a while ago as well, and as well as hey, it's being inverted. And I think this happened through a conversation that the three of us had at the time. And sure enough, it was absolutely inverted, as Jens pointed out. And then Wirecast said, yep, it's been updated. Now, the update broke the QR code and it wouldn't update the content. It was actually an invalid QR code. They've once again, as of the 12.1.1, made the correction and made an update so that it does generate a QR code again. However, it is still inverted. This inversion works on most phones. Now, like I said, it's most phones. It's not all phones. It works on my device. It works on Craig's device.
What are you running?
I'm running Android, but I also have several applications because I do a lot of design work and a lot of I built QR codes from the ground up. We actually have a patent on a type of code. So I have worked with the codes for quite some time, since mid 2000s. But this is why I know so much. And you're not following the specs here, which is what I did. I posted the specifications for QR, and in there it clearly states this is supposed to be light, this is supposed to be dark. It doesn't have to be black and white. It can be colors, but it has to be a high contrast. And that's not what this is. It's inverted.
Whoops. I'm just having a look through the next one. I might skip that one. It's a very brief one. No video NDI. That was pretty easily solved. The next one after that. System audio.
Yep.
System audio not capturing on a Mac Pro.
That's a known bug, and that's actually pertaining to Apple. So Apple itself doesn't allow you to really do that. You need to basically say, output my audio signal to something and then come back, either with a virtual driver or something else. Personally, I used to use, I believe it was Soundflower on Mac when I was doing it, where I was able to set Soundflower as my output, and then Soundflower would then do my loop back into the system, and it was able to output to another device or to headphones. But that's actually a limitation of what you're able to pull from the driver. That being said, obviously Soundflower is able to be a virtual output, and Wirecast has virtual inputs. I'm really thoroughly surprised that there isn't great, let's have that built into Wirecast where you install perhaps an audio driver for being, hey, my output from my system, send it to a Wirecast virtual input.
Yeah, I personally use Dante Via, which is a commercial version of Soundflower. Soundflower was good in its day, but
Yeah.
it's a little bit old now, and that's fine. Dante Via works for me. I'm using the iMac. I do have a new MacBook Pro with the T2 chip. I haven't yet tested Dante on there, and maybe I should do that at some point and have a look, see if it works. But the root cause of the problem is not so much a bug. It's that the existing capture does it without using the T2 chip. And Apple is now doing their audio using the T2 chip, and therefore someone needs to talk to the T2 chip. And it's just a simple question. When can we have updated drivers that use that functionality?
Yeah. For me, though, I still say the best bet is going through a mixer. You're able to mix minus things. You're able to control audio better. You can pass to headphones without passing into the system, or vice versa. I,
Mm.
it's worth the $120 investment just to get like a 2 or 3 input mixer that has
I'll
quarter-inch
agree with
ins.
you. I'll almost agree with you. And I'll tell you where I would eventually go to a outboard mixer. If Rendezvous guests could be hairpin routed via virtual USB channels across to an outboard mixer.
Or even ASIO.
Whatever.
Yeah, that would be really good. That's
If
a long-term goal, but I'm not going to disagree with that one. If I can set certain people to individual channels, please give me that.
mm, like right now, inboard, I can set you on one channel and I use the USB mixer that's built into Wirecast. Let me bring it over for the sake of completeness. So there's my USB mixer right now, and I've got my microphone there. I've got the other one over there. Screen capture, don't know why it's capturing audio. I don't want it. Which brings me to another point. It would be really good if Wirecast didn't include in the USB mixer things that are not being used for audio. Even if you turn off the audio flag in that input, it still comes up in the mixer. That's just one of my pet peeves.
Personally, I think anything that has audio should always show up. You've given examples in the past of if you have a certain shot selected and highlighted, those audio channels are available to you to use in the mixer. But if
Mm,
you select a different shot that has different audio channels, well, some of those change, and your mixer console that you're using, the
mm.
positions of those things are different. For me, if you have any audio input, that should always be in that live mixer, no matter what you have selected.
So even in the shot preferences, if you say, I do not want to use audio on this input, I want to disable it and nuke it,
Yep.
you still want it to show up.
Yeah. In fact, what I would do is when you have the shot selected, I would specifically show that you're like, you have that muted down or it's gone, it's not in that channel. Rather
Mm,
than you saying which channels are in for this selection, it should
mm,
say which channels are currently live and preview. It's a bit different of an input, I think. But if you have anything in your asset manager that has an audio signal, it should show up there and you should be able to assign it to a channel
yeah.
like you have, and it should never change. Upon adding a new one, it would add a new one at the end of that, which you then again have to assign. If you
Mm,
delete one of those channels from, say, you have 4 channels selected and used, and you delete the third channel, the fourth channel doesn't move. It's still
mm,
only sending to the fourth channel.
yeah. If we had that channel assignment where I could sort my stuff so that no matter what I do with my shots, the one that I want on channel 1, which might be my mic, will always go to channel 1.
Yep.
If I could have that happen, and channel 2 will always be the co-host of my show, no matter what I do with my shots, then I'm happy with that.
Correct. And that's, for me, you're now simulating what a hardware mixer does in
Mm,
the software, which is what it should be. All my inputs, I'm plugging a microphone into channel 1. That microphone doesn't change just because I'm using a different audio setup. It's always channel 1 that I have plugged in there.
yeah. Every time you change your shots, you're effectively making things appear and disappear as far as the audio mixer goes, and that's our
Yeah.
challenge, our problem.
Yeah, the audio mixer should be a completely separate element, a separate beast, and you should be able to assign it, which is again a big thing that I've had in for a while. Now, I believe it was in version 8 that they redid the complete audio side of things to bring out this audio mixer. And they used to be able to have here is a global audio input that I want to have assigned to all of my shots. That was able to be had. But since they implemented this new one, you need to have basically channel 5, or sorry, not channel, layer 5 on your Wirecast setup to be an audio layer, only audio. So you select the first one, you create a new shot, and you say, here's my audio mixer with the USB, here's my inputs for other people, right? If you only want to have your own external mic set up, well, you're losing a layer. You have a dedicated layer only for audio.
Yeah. Just a side topic for a brief moment. I've just brought up the chat on my screen. Apologies that we don't have the pop-out chat today. Hello to Lutz. Yes, another episode of Wirecast in the Wild. Very cool. Ken Heron sitting uncomfortably close to one another, like they're on a short bus and Greg is the passenger. And Phantom says, yeah, looks a little bit creepy. Well, it works.
I don't disagree with you all. Although, if that's the case, then I kind of went off the bridge when I was driving.
Yeah, something like that. Okay, I did find it.
Just on that note, talking to the chat there, we might be seeing a bit of a different layout depending upon happenstance this coming week for next week, just as a test. Again, just as a test. But we might see something different next week.
Absolutely. So the next one I've got, stream to on-site TVs. Let's bring that up and have a little read.
Yes, this is a comment that had been done 2 years ago. And if I'm not mistaken, the current post is an ad.
Is an ad as in adding to it, or an advertisement?
Is an advertisement. In fact, it looks like it has been deleted.
Mm-hmm.
It was a link to a piece of software.
Okay, let's ignore that one then.
User that was like very content and happy with this new piece of software, that could have been a thing. But it was hey, stream to any TV using Android and all this different types of stuff. Great.
Okay.
It's a solution. But it was a 2-year-old conversation.
Okay, system audio. I'm just reading through my inbox and looking for Facebook live streaming issues, video choppy, lots of video choppy discussion and more QR codes and more Facebook streaming. Then we've got your one, 360 streaming.
Oh, yes. Nothing's really changed with that. The conversation we had last week was pretty much where it landed. The only thing that's really come out of that's new is Craig was asking for, hey, what codecs are you using? And I just simply posted the actual files that I used, both the Cineform and the ProRes. So if anybody wants to go and try it themselves, there's the files there. It's a Google Drive link at the moment. And it's just a gzip file or a RAR file of those files. It's a Wirecast logo that has been put at the bottom of what you would look at as a 360. So if you put that as a 360 video on YouTube, you'll see the Wirecast logo spinning at the bottom. Okay, funky. There's a question from some people on how to stream to Facebook. There was a tutorial posted. Pretty basic kind of stuff. There's nothing revolutionary in there. Yeah, a LinkedIn, how to stream to LinkedIn as well, which they're still in their private beta or their invite only beta, I should say. So unless you've been invited in, which if you do, great, congrats. Post down below, link in the comments, and what you think of that. Obviously, that's a big interest of mine, and I'm sure of Greg's here. Always want to know what you're doing with that. Yeah.
Reading a bit further, some more new tech NDI with Wirecast 12.1. We've mentioned that. The red question mark, RTSP feed ending. Did we mention that one before?
No, not really. This is basically somebody's coming in and seeing that a stream ends prematurely. Wirecast believes something has ended, or it's streaming out somewhere. And it's, again, something that I haven't really looked into, but it's there.
And it's only a fairly new one, and the recommendation was upgrade to the latest version just so that you can eliminate. By the way, just a quick side comment on that. I do like the move towards the subscription support model. That's my personal opinion. I saw an eye roll there.
Yeah, I like it and I don't. I like it, the fact that, yes, the version that you can roll out is great. What I don't like is I have a colleague of mine who dropped the money for it and has tried working with Wirecast to I paid for this version, this one should have been included, and they never got back to her. And she's a professional streamer that does large conferences, and she is so enraged at the lack of response from them that she's like, nope, I have no interest. I've dropped $1,000 on the pro version back when it was a lump sum, and it was extremely small amount of time that this just wasn't able to be updated. And I said to her, they do have an upgrade plan. They do have that level of thing, and they just didn't give her the time of day, apparently, when she reached out.
Yeah, this is one area where I think the subscription model is good, but I'll tell you one variation I would love to see to it, which is you get all of the updates, but none of the new features.
Which would be difficult for them to do.
But possible, right? At the end of the day, I've had a look at some of the config under the hood, and all of the user interface elements have information in XML files. And the only thing you'd need to do is to have, for every user interface element, to know which version it was first available in.
True, but then you're going to run into another issue of great, it's an XML file. I can just simply go in and edit it.
I'm not suggesting you necessarily do it in the XML file, but the concept of every UI element, you just need to know when was it added. And then you know which version the user's paid support ends on, and give them everything up into that version from a feature perspective, but let them upgrade. Why not? Fix bugs.
The bigger issue for me, and I think this is where they should take a look at something. If you have a absolutely critical bug or change that has happened, for instance, Facebook updating their API to only allow RTSP or RTMPS or whatever, the secure connection for that. Yeah. These are critical things. These are the software stops functioning. You've paid for this software, and although it's perhaps out of subscription, the way that you have your model set up is that you don't receive any updates beyond a certain thing. So if somebody only got up to version 11.1.2, then what's going to end up happening is that there's a critical bug that needs fixing. That wasn't really a bug, but it's a limitation of other platforms. Now you have to pay to upgrade your software just to be able to upgrade your software so that it fixes something that isn't a bug or a feature. That's my big concern.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, let's move to the red question mark.
Why did you mention? I'm still fine. There's no. Should I refresh this page so it comes up with a question mark?
Today you are. Absolutely. You look just normal. Let's put it up on the screen, and let's actually do the. I have voted. This one is really simple, and we made a video about it ourselves just to demonstrate it very, very clearly. In simple terms, I mean, we could simulate it right now, but if Matthew's video signal disappeared right now, we'd have a red question mark going out to air. And here's the interesting one. If you're doing chroma key like we are right now, in fact, let's actually simulate it. Can you do it for me?
Sure, I will simulate an outage.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Now, all of a sudden, I can't be seen. I've got this grey box in front of me, and at the same time, Matthew is probably back, but I can't see him because I'm only looking at the live to air monitor at the moment. Now, I'm just going to try and get him back. Oops, he's not coming back. He's not in the preview window either. Open rendezvous dashboard. He hasn't come back. Okay, we simulated a failure too well. And now he's unable to come back. While we're waiting for Matthew to come back, let me do two things. I'm going to go and bring up the chat and have a little look here. Phantom Hodges pulling a Jeff Dunham, hand in the back like a puppet. Okay, thanks, Hodgie. Okay, so the red question mark. We need a way where if an input source disappears, we don't get this going to air, because if we have that, it's not a good look. And then from a rendezvous perspective, we need a simpler way of reconnecting. By the way, I'll just share the way we simulated the failure just then. We tested this before. All Matthew did is go to the address bar and refresh the page, which no data's changed. It's just simulating a network failure. When I did it from my computer the other day, it reconnected just fine in the preview window, but didn't go to the live window. So that was the way we simulated it. But nothing there right now. Let's, while we're waiting for him, I'll continue down a few of these here. Question mark removal, auto shop creation. This one is relating to NDI sources. So if you've got someone who's doing NDI streaming from Skype or something like that, and you've got a new NDI source appearing in Skype, it would be good if Wirecast could automatically bring that up. You're doing a live show and you've got a guest that's coming in. They've dialed into you or you've called them. Instead of having to stuff around, just make the shot appear on a particular row within your dashboard, and that would be really helpful. The duration for Matthew to reconnect is a little bit high, so I'm going to call him in the background on Skype.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, it's a very, very well simulated network outage, I must say.
Apparently, that is definitely interesting. Like, I can't get, like, I'm sitting there waiting to join the conversation.
Okay, now this is a good example. What I'm going to do, I'm going to screen capture and bring my rendezvous window, because this is a bug that I've seen before, and it's good that we're having this Wirecast in the wild. The purpose is to show what really happens in unusual circumstances. So this definitely fits that. Let me go and get my screen up over here. I'm going to zoom this a little bit and focus just on the rendezvous dashboard if I can. There we go. So at the moment, just to be clear, down in this corner over here, we don't have a guest waiting to come in. Matthew is trying to get in. At this point, if I hit disconnect and reconnect to previous session, Matthew will probably appear there. And there he is. Okay, now here's the challenge, and I'll hang up from the Skype and I'll bring you back in, Matthew, so stand by. The challenge is that if this was the real world and you had, let's say, the professional version of Wirecast and you had 8 guests, let's say. Let's bring you back over there. There we go. And audio. If you had 8 guests, that's not going to end well. If one guest drops out and turns into a question mark, and to get that one guest back, you've got to disconnect everyone else.
That was totally not expected, by the way. That was, you were just trying to demonstrate something else completely.
Well, it's good that we did, right? So this is something that happens, I would say, about 20% of the time of Wirecast dropouts, of rendezvous guest dropouts, about 20% of the time for me. The guest goes away, can't get back in. Only way to fix it is to restart the session. This is actually the first time that I've documented it, so that's really good. Happy days.
Honestly, this is one of the primary reasons I don't use Rendezvous to do any of my events. I just don't trust it yet.
Yeah, I get it. And the reason why I specifically do use Rendezvous for this show is because if you don't use it and you don't document the bugs, they don't get fixed. How can we get to a point where we can improve its stability to make it of an appropriate quality? So anyway.
And I totally get that.
Yeah. So while you were gone, we talked briefly about NDI auto shot creation. Did you see that one in there? What do you think?
I did see this in there. I do not like this idea one bit.
Okay.
And let me tell you why.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically because I have a ton of NDI inputs. If I look at my potential NDI inputs on this machine, I have 4 inputs. That's one for every one of my displays. Now, I run Hamachi, a LogMeIn product that runs on a multitude of machines. This is an IP-based thing. I can connect to any of my network anywhere in the world so long as they have internet connection. This includes my current laptop that's at home sitting on my bed. Mm-hmm. This also shows up in my list because by default, I have Scan Converter.
Can I pause for a minute and ask you,
sure.
just in terms of the feature request and the implementation I was suggesting?
Yep.
I'm talking about newly discovered devices.
Yep.
After starting. So,
yes.
For example,
and if you have, again, any network issue, or if NDI drops out and comes back, all of a sudden,
I'm not talking about something that disappears and comes back. So something that is appearing for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
The challenge is, so someone who is a Skype streamer.
Yep.
The process of going and putting them into shots is frustrating during a live show if you're self-producing. If you've got a separate producer, then maybe.
And I get that. I do. It's just, there's also other things where you should be able to specify perhaps tags. Skype specifically has a specific
structure,
a structure to the name. It says Skype this person, or Skype local, or Skype currently live, or the active person, whatever it is. Perhaps doing something like that, yes. I like that idea. And that comes back to an idea that I tried pitching as well, which is instead of Rendezvous, maybe integrate with them. They have the platform already that's there. Use it. Work in a partnership. Have it so that you have an integration, and you can say, if you're doing Skype, great, here's all my Skype inputs as an option in the insert thing, or auto import them as they're coming in. Apply them to a template. That's where I see it valuable. But to call a global, hey, any new incoming NDI that just happens to show up, start doing this. If I'm on a network that is a studio or a TV production,
you wouldn't use it in definitely wouldn't use it in that kind of environment. So, which is why I said let's make it configurable, and you wouldn't turn it on for that type of use case. That type of use case is going to have a producer where he's not going to have auto live enabled, which is what my friend has got, right? Yep. So he's got auto live enabled. He doesn't have the ability to have a separate producer. He's trying to talk and be funny and entertain and do all of these things, and you just cannot easily add your shots without it looking crap. That's the challenge.
Is very true. And to that, I do agree. I do see it being of value to have that, but then you also need to be like, great, we're adding another person in here. Well, we need to do a triple shot. We need to do a 2-person shot. We need to do, if we already have another person up, we now need to do a shot of me and that person, me and the second person and this new person, right? And then you need a shot with all 3 of them. I agree with
you 100%. And let's quickly talk about that, the whole templating system. I'm going to do something right now where I'm going to set this to, actually, let me just quickly, before I set it to auto live, let's pretend I've already got my placeholder template. So new shot, I'm not going to send it live. I will change the template to a 3-pane.
The template that stretches video?
A 3-pane template. Now, I'm briefly going to put it on the screen, but then I'll remove it again, and I'll tell you the reason why I'm going to do that. So here's my template ready for use. Now, I'm going to go back to our two-shot. We're going to pretend we've got another source. I'm going to select Auto Live, which I normally wouldn't use, but again, other people would. So if I have that Auto Live...
If you're using hotkeys, you need to use Auto Live.
Sure. But here's what I'm doing. So if I right now go to that template, right click on it, even though I've got Auto Live, and I put Matthew in box A.
Put me in number C. Oh, no, put me in C. It squishes me down. It makes me look
I'll
thinner.
put you in A and C.
Okay.
So change source C. We've got you over there, and I'll put me over here, which is that one. Now, I've been able to do all of that without it interfering with what's live. And I'm now going, because I was right-clicking. Now that I've done all of that, I can click over here and go live to that shot. And it's done that without looking bad. So that's the good news. It is possible, but I'll tell you why it's not possible with the NDI scenario that I mentioned before. When you right-click, and I'll turn off the Auto Live.
You're talking about the scaling issues.
No. So if I share my desktop right now, screen capture, get rid of that, and we'll get rid of the rendezvous dashboard and reposition to there. So when I right click over here and I change source for one of these template placeholders, it will only display the items that are correct.
Yes, but you should always be initializing the first time you do an NDI to do a full screen.
Okay, so there's my point. The auto load of NDI sources into a shot so that it's available will then mean that even if you don't use that shot, you can now come over here, change source, and you can put that in without it looking crap to your viewers. You get what I'm saying?
I think that's a good idea. No, I do get. That would perhaps be good. I absolutely get that would be a good feature, and having it so that it does that. Now, I think a better option would probably be, oh, look, a new NDI source. What are its dimensions?
Yeah.
Right. If you launch Wirecast, and this applies to all the different software, not just Wirecast, there is a small delay while it's looking and searching your network to find out what are available. Now, OBS, you have a list. Wirecast, you have a list. vMix, what it does is it actually goes out, sees all those different inputs, and it makes a single frame screenshot of what's on that. And that gives you that option to say, what is the dimensions of it? As a software, Wirecast would then be able to say, oh, it's a 1920 by 1080. Great. When I do import that, I'm going to import it at that resolution to start with. Right. That's something that's not happening right now. And it would solve what you're saying right now. Here's a new input. What's the resolution? Great. I know that. I'm going to store that like I do with a webcam.
Yeah. Let's try that as an experiment again.
Sure.
So over here, I've got my titling computer to the side. I'm going to create a new layer in there. So it's one that will therefore create a new NDI source. Now I'm going to go and get my screen capture back up and get rid of us. Now, if I click over here and I say, I want to add that layer 3, my network source, add, by default, it's a box. Now, I don't know if you can see that or not.
We can see it a little bit, but not very much.
But
it is a black box that is scaled to 640 by 480 until it loads, until it connects.
That's exactly right. Let me just do that again. There we go. So there's the black box in my preview shot. Now, the canvas that I've got set up in New Blue Titler Effects is a 720p shot. I'd love to be able to use 1080, but unfortunately the internet in this country doesn't support that.
So on that note, by the way, and this is not a bug on Wirecast, this is actually coming from NewBlue. The first time you connect to the NDI of NewBlue, it's not actually sending you video, meaning although it's transparent, it's not transparent video that comes through. You actually need to initiate the first time you do a video for it to start doing that.
You know, there's a lot of things about the way that NewBlue talks to Wirecast specifically, as opposed to NDI in general, that I think may be causing that problem. There's the Wirecast
Absolutely.
API. If I use the same title to another NDI capture technology, whatever that may be, a preview monitor, I'm curious if I get the same thing. And if I initiate, not from Wirecast the title, but I initiate the title from Title Alive. You and I can test that offline.
Yeah, no, I've definitely seen some issues, but I think there's bigger issues with NewBlue's NDI into Wirecast, specifically the delayed frame start, which is not on NewBlue. That's on Wirecast. I think that might be what you're referring to. The first 2 frames or so are being held.
Correct. I think that's on Wirecast.
Yeah, because it recognizes a NewBlue, adjusts it, sends the change this to a different, change it to do an in or an out, and that delay that's happening is being reflected obviously in a halted frame in Wirecast.
Yeah. Okay. We've got another 10 minutes or so. I'll just see if I can find 1 or 2 more that we'll have a look at today. One being virtual camera always on or hotkey. Let me see if I can expand that a bit.
If anybody in the chat also has something that they'd like us to take a look at from the forums, please post the ID of it. You can't post a link in chat, but you can post the ID, and we can take a look at that by just using that as a reference.
Remind me to go and have a look at that YouTube counter thing that we spoke about earlier in the show, because right now it's showing me that I've got 0 viewers. So either no one's watching or the bug has come back again, one or the other.
I think somebody's definitely watching, because I've definitely got it up. It says there's 4, but
yeah. Anyway. Currently a shortcut can't be assigned to a virtual camera, but it does sound like an interesting idea. Was this a... Here's an interesting one. For Mac users, you can actually, in the system, create shortcuts. So just because you can't do keyboard shortcut assignments within Wirecast doesn't mean you can't do it externally. So, for example, if I want to open the Rendezvous dashboard, for which there is currently no shortcut available in Wirecast, I can create an operating system level shortcut and I can assign it to Wirecast only, so it doesn't do anything in any other app, and it makes it very, very simple to solve that problem. In fact, I'll go back into that post and let people know that that's a workaround for at least Mac users.
Yeah, on Windows, I believe you can do it with third-party software, but again, it's possible to do. You shouldn't need to. And it also brings it down to, why is it that I need to do, like, for shortcuts and hotkeys, specifically keyboard shortcuts, I guess you could say, Wirecast has them built in, but they're not performing up to what you'd expect from a hotkey for several reasons. Obviously, the person who you're talking about for working in a auto live mode would have to do that if they're using hotkeys, specifically if they're using something like a Stream Deck, right? But why is it that you couldn't have it so that there's an option to say, if you're using a hotkey, go live, or have a hotkey to go auto live, not just with a virtual camera, but in general? Which do you do, a cut? Do you do a smooth? Do you do a cross dissolve? Those should be able to be hotkeys. And at the moment, you can't do it in the base Wirecast, again, like you said, without going and creating that on a system level side.
Absolutely. I mentioned a few moments ago, we're going to have a look at the screen and have a look at the chat. Let me see if I can find that.
Yeah. Lutz is still in there, so obviously we still have viewers.
Why is my screen capture not working now? Wrong. There we go, that one. So sorry about the hole in space and time, but we can see over there the number
0
of
views.
YouTube viewers right now, and Lutz is telling us that he's still there, but it's telling us we've got 0 viewers on Wirecast. Separate topic, we spoke before about our dropped frames. Thankfully, it has stabilized in terms of the number of drop frames. I might get the statistics back up and just have a quick little peek at that. So there we go. Whoops. So we can see a number of times where the frame rate, let's turn off viewers. There's an interesting thing for you. The viewers seems to be measuring occasionally.
That might be an API restriction thing, or that might be just coming from YouTube only providing it at certain times.
Anyway, we can certainly document that issue now, but let's get back to the frame rate. Right now, as we speak, we're dropping frames again. Now, from a CPU perspective, is it CPU? I'm getting, something that's peaking at about 50%, and there is a spike at that point in time, and there, not so much there. There was one there. So what is it that's causing those spikes in terms of my transitions? We're not doing anything particularly complicated.
No, but we also want to make sure that this is not causation. There might be a correlation between the two, but not a causation. Right?
Correct.
And if you look, it's actually happening at different rates. I'm seeing one line progress faster than another here. Oh, wait, no, that's only on the preview coming back to me from you.
Yeah. That was our earlier one, and we could see that the CPU was climbing there, and all of a sudden the frame rate was dropping. So,
yeah, nonetheless, at any rate, I don't believe that the issue is on the actual output. I think the frame rate on the actual output is fine.
Yeah,
YouTube would be complaining to you.
Absolutely, and I'm seeing green all the way. I don't have the Rendezvous dashboard open. I might just close the audio mixer just out of interest, and our current 3308 is our current number. We'll see if it increases within the next 8 minutes before we say goodbye for today. No, it's still increasing. I'm watching it right now. And right now specifically, the only thing we've got on the screen
is this.
Well, Matthew, there's many people who've said that you've broken the internet a number of times.
That's why I'm generally behind the camera.
Okay, let's go for one more perhaps. So virtual
also,
camera
when were you
always
talking to
on.
my mother?
Let's see, issue with Facebook, multiple pages at once. That's a famous one, and we don't even need to cover that. It's welcome to the world. I'm frustrated by Facebook that they do that.
Yeah, so Twitch does something similar, which is if you live stream to Twitch professionally as a partner or as an affiliate, there's one of the terms of service, you're not allowed to post that onto another platform for up to like 24 or 48 hours. And it's an agreement that you have to do when you become an affiliate or a partner. Again, I can't remember which of the two. And it's because they have a VOD system. They have a video on demand that they want you to have your viewers and your subscribers use. That is you can't watch the video unless you're a subscriber, and you need to be subscribed to this person, which means that they make money, Twitch in this case. So they want you to keep it there for a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
They don't want you to live stream to both locations. Now, Twitch has been very lax with regards to that. They'll attack and they'll go after some channels, but the larger ones, they generally let pass because there's a big enough audience there anyway.
Yeah. I've got one more. This is going to be our last one for the day. ISO recording fail. Have you played with ISO recordings?
I have, and I found that unless you have a drive that's going to be big enough to do ISO recording, it's not worth it. For for me, what I do for a lot of my content is I record directly to the camera at 60 frames a second at glory, and I try to put audio directly to the camera as well. And then I use hardware encoders, or I do, well, in my case, multiple hardware encoders to record other elements. So for me, I find
So
I'm doing the ISO from the source,
yeah,
not through Wirecast.
I
It
get
saves on
what you're
CPU.
saying. I get what you're saying. Having said that, the feature is there for those people who've bought it and see the feature. It should work. I've
It should.
played with it. I played with it at one point a long time ago and had challenges with it and didn't play again. And I can't even remember how to use it, to be honest. So
It's easy enough to use, but it takes a system load of stuff. And normally it uses Apple H.264 to just do ProRes recording directly to your machine, or in some cases, depending on your system. Apple, obviously, Apple encoding for Mac, and then whatever your graphics card is, hopefully for PC. That obviously takes system resources away from what you're doing, but this also allows for replay. So the ISO, I believe, is paired up with the replay ability, and sports uses this all the time because as soon as
yeah,
you hit
yeah,
that record,
absolutely.
great, I'm going to go and I'm going to capture that video and I'm going to play it right away. Awesome. Yeah, that's absolutely valuable. But
So I'm
I
doing
don't
this
do
right now
sports.
as we speak, right? I want
Yeah.
to actually play with it and break the internet. We'll change the zoom on that so that and reset position and
Lutz is asking us whether or not we've covered the NDI timing issue at the beginning.
I think we have, but
We've discussed a little bit of it. I think he's more talking the buffer delay and the, like, in my case, I've seen external Skype come in at different varying rates. Now we have tested it this past week to a certain degree, but I'm finding that it's not easily repeatable. I guess I thought it was. I was able to get it from on the same network, Skype from one machine to another, seeing a massive delay. Obviously, I have the videos online of that happening. But at the moment, people are seeing it on cameras that have NDI built in, professional grade cameras.
yeah.
And I don't know what to tell you. We've got, both of us have been going back and forth with that, and there
Let
is
me let me do
continued
let me
issues.
do this just because I've got this up here now. I want to
Sure.
quickly spend 2 seconds having a look at this. So the first thing I wanted to do is to do a ISO recording of you as a guest. So the first thing is there's a limitation. You can't record rendezvous inputs to ISO recordings. That's something that I believe should be there, but let's move on from that. Let's say it's not there and we accept it and acknowledge it. And then we go over here and we're going to do FaceTime. So we'll call it FaceTime. Audio source, we're going to pull it from that microphone. We're not going to record anything else. I'm going to do, I won't do high quality recording and configure. I won't do replay. And it's theoretically now recording my camera, even though I'm not going to air. So it's working. First time I tried it a long time ago, it did not work and I was frustrated by it. So maybe that's fixed now. I haven't actually played the file, mind you, but I couldn't get that far previously.
I have definitely seen it in the past break, but something I played with. Oh, yeah.
It's there for red.
Rose.
So and it's recovered. So that's the good news. It recovered by itself.
It happened when you NDI'd, when you ISO'd.
To be honest, I want to do things that break it. Now the question is why?
You are back. Oh no, you're not. Are you back? Yeah, you're back. So interesting that happened, I guess, when we did ISO. Do you think that's causation or correlation?
Would you like me to do it again?
No. Well, you could, but it's your show. Wow. Interesting.
Let's do it again, just for a brief moment.
Sure. Let's do it live.
Okay. So we're turning on the ISO.
Yep.
I'm
Now,
having a look at.
everybody in the chat with us. Let's count to 10.
I'm having a look at my statistics.
Mm-hmm.
I'm watching the CPU line go up. I'm watching the.
What's your buffer look like?
Here it goes. It's going down. We've got dropped frames, and interestingly, there was no RTMPQ this time. So this time it was just dropped frames. Let me see if I can put that on the screen. And output, show statistics. And I'll get rid of our faces, that might help. Output, show statistics. So that was the first time I turned it on, the ISO recording. That was the second time I turned it on, and it's still recording as we speak. We had a bunch of dropped frames at that point. CPU did go up a little bit. It's still recording. So if I hypothetically turn it off right now, and we have another look over here.
Yeah, it looks like it's fine now, but that RTMP buffer peaked. I wonder what that was. It might have been just correlation, because if you look, it happened like before the peak of something there.
Yeah, at the very least, we do know that we had the dropped frames. If I do, I thought I was turning it off. I didn't. Let me try that again. There we go. At the very least, if I pause that now and we see the CPU's gone down again, and we'll do it one more time for luck. We're turning on the ISO recording. CPU will go up. The question is, will we drop frames again? And there is a little bit of lag here. No, it seems clean this time. Don't know.
Huh.
So it's interesting to play and test these things so that you know what's really going to happen in the real world. We did have the question from Lutz. Let's just quickly talk about that.
So he's basically just bringing up the NDI delay. He's seen delays of up to 2 seconds on an NDI input, which is a lot when you're trying to pair audio. Like that is a lot when you're trying to pair audio, especially if you're trying to pair audio to a source that's SDI in. You can't. It just, those two inputs need to be paired together. You're not going to be delaying an SDI 1080p 60 video feed by 2 seconds and the audio, because you're not going to be able to do any recording to that. All of that gets stored in cache as you're doing that delay. And so to match a slow camera, especially one that I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Lutz, if you could respond to this, it's that 2 second delay isn't consistent either. It fluctuates between probably 1 second, 2 seconds, maybe half a second throughout that video.
Do we want to, try this again live? I'm going to go and get my Titler Live input. I'm going to screen capture, and we're going to have a look at the live output and at the NDI monitor. Now, as we've previously said, it doesn't happen all the time, but it can't hurt to try. Who knows, we might be able to document it here while we're here as well. So I will configure my NDI monitor, and I'll get to my titling computer. I'll just quickly turn everything off. There we go. So we'll bring that overlay shot in, and how can I screen capture underneath that? Can I? I should be able to. Yeah, let's do that. Plus screen capture, new screen capture. And we've got, sorry for those people who are watching paint dry right now. Tell me a joke. No, actually, this is not going to work well. I don't want to waste people's time with this now. Yeah, let's leave it there for today. And I think I lost your audio as well. I can't hear you at the moment, so I've just added a screen.
It helps. No, it was me. It was me.
Okay. I thought
muted
we found
myself so you don't hear the loud noises.
I thought we found something else for a brief moment there. No. Okay. Let's leave it there for today. It's been fun chatting and playing with Wirecast. Lutz is saying it should be fixed in 12.1.1, but he hasn't had time to test it. Yeah. What version am I running?
I have ran 12.1.1. It is not fixed. I have demonstrated it and resubmitted those bugs. Mm-hmm. I'm working with them, not directly, but we're definitely submitting videos back and forth, or at least I'm submitting videos to them of it not working, Lutz. So mm-hmm. I'm getting the same issues, not to your extent. However, from the engineers, I have heard that they were able to get, or they had found a bug that was up to 30 seconds of a delay. And they're like, that's clearly something's wrong. So they were able to fix that. But no.
Okay. Any last thoughts and comments from you, Matty?
Nope. Just people need to be awesome and go teach somebody something in the next week. No matter who it is, go teach somebody something awesome.
Yeah. Sounds like a plan. Okay. See you next time. Have a great weekend. And thanks for watching Wirecast in the Wild. See you next time. Bye-bye. Hang on. Was Matthew able to help you, Greg? Craig. I just saw the last comment there from Craig. Just to share with people before we go, I was about to sign off, but I've had challenges with my internet. I think that would be an understatement, and yeah, just a little bit of an understatement.
Just a bit.
I've been working with the carrier Telstra, and just to share on that front, I don't have an alternative to Telstra currently. If I went to any other carrier, they can only give me ADSL, which has upload speeds that are not conducive to streaming. So Telstra is the only option, and it's been challenging. I'll continue to work with them as best I can. And I did have a full head of hair before dealing with Telstra. Okay, that's all for now. See you next time, guys. Bye-bye.